Get ready to take a look behind the scenes and enter the impossible for the Between Two Minds podcast with our hosts, Judge Mentalist and Bernardo Rodriguez. Can they really tell you what you're thinking?
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Judge Mentalist here, and I am coming at you with another fun, not at the normal time because we have had scheduling nightmares for the past couple of weeks, but what I'm bringing you today is probably, because PHS starts in a week, most likely this is the last one of these preview interviews I'll be doing for the 2026 summit. And then we'll be thinking about 2027 already. This might be, if you are a performer who is thinking about taking things to the next level, becoming more of a professional, or maybe you do consider yourself to be a professional performer now, but you don't know where all the money's going, this might be one of the most important talks at any conference ever. Because one of the things that most performers are really, really good at, performing. What they're not necessarily always so great at, the business side of things, the financial side of things, setting it up, running it, writing off all of the stuff you can write off. So I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to bring them on now because we have a short window here to chat about this. Brent Arnold, good afternoon. How are you? It is afternoon where you are, right?
It is, yeah. We just rounded it out of the into the 1 o'clock hour, and thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course, and thank you for bringing some insight on such a valuable topic. Because, like I said in the intro, the performance side of things, and this is not uncommon. This is not just a entertainment and performance thing in which the key players are good at the thing, but not good at the business side of things. So in my day job, despite everything you see in the background here, I'm an attorney. And I exist in this world where there are so many great attorneys that just suck at running a business. So they end up either failing, imploding, working for somebody else, or whatever it is. Every industry has these folks that are good at the thing, bad at the business. Entertainment, no different, but probably more pronounced here. So let's get into it. What can people expect at your talk about financial planning and all of this stuff? And as it says in the topic, this is for people at any level. So whether you're established, you're just getting started, you're ready to take that next step into being more full-time, it's for you. What can we expect?
Well, you're absolutely right. You know, I tell people all the time, look, I don't do my own dental work, right? I pay an expert for that. And doesn't mean I'm not involved in the process. You know, I still brush my teeth, take care of things, and let them know when there's something that I feel isn't right. But I rely on that expert to take care of the intricacies and make sure that I'm getting good advice. And so many people, because we're not taught this stuff in school, and frankly, we should be, just kind of wing it, right? Or maybe they read some stuff on the internet. The challenge is they're not really getting any advice as it pertains to them. And so we've got so many folks, and not just the professionals or the folks that are trying to make a full-time go of this, but a lot of people that are in a normal, what we would consider a normal vocation where we're working a 9 to 5, but they don't realize that, hey, maybe they can use this thing that is a very solid hobby or a second career, or maybe something that's a goal for them to move into as a full-time career. But even when they're starting out, they can use it as a business and take advantage of our tax code and all of the things that come along with being a business owner ahead of time. You know, why wait until you're in the thick of it? But you know, it's a common saying. It's been going around for years. You know, people don't plan to fail, they just fail to plan. And so that's a big part of what we do is step up and say, hey, look, here's how you can play the game. And here's how you can play it at different levels, depending on where you're at. Everybody from somebody just starting out, you know, get ahead of that. Let's make it easy as time goes on, to somebody who wakes up one day and they're like, oh gosh, I meant to do this 5 years ago. where the heck am I, and what do I need to make this work? Or they always seem like they're paycheck to paycheck, or they're always behind the ball. There's just that list of stressful things that they don't want to have to take care of, because guess what? They didn't get into this industry to do that stuff. They got in this industry to be a performer.
To do the
And
thing.
so,
Exactly.
yeah, absolutely.
All right. So you mentioned something that I don't want to gloss over, and I don't know how much you're talking about this in the conference. And maybe it's for the conference, maybe it's for the next level. But you mentioned people working paycheck to paycheck. And I want to just put this out there. If there's no other reason why you need to attend this talk, as a gig worker, there will come a day in which you do your last gig, and you are getting paid with every gig. Part of this financial planning element, and again, I don't know how much you're going to talk about this, is planning for that retirement, that future, that time when your gig checks aren't coming anymore, but making sure that you're leveraging the gig money while you're making it, so that when you're not on stage, you're not destitute and, you know, living out of living out of one of the cases that you used to carry all your gear with, for lack of a better term.
Well, that's a great point. You know, we have to look at those of us that have a scalable income, I call it, right? We're not necessarily getting a salary or an income that is like when I was in the military. I knew what I was going to get paid twice a month, right? That's not necessarily the thing for a performer or someone that works in a service industry. And so your plan has to be different, right? When you're working in corporate America, or you have a typical salaried job, you can kind of plan for that and use a 401k and stuff like that. When you're in something that fluctuates as much as a performer's career is, you need to have something that's scalable at any given time, right?
Mhm.
And so the one message you'll hear me preach to everyone at every level over and over again is give yourself the most options possible, right? Don't paint yourself into a corner. Make sure that whether it's the middle of your career, the end of your career, or afterwards, when hopefully you're able to do what you want because you want to do it, not because you have to do it, that's where you want to have all of those options available to you. And so the point of life is not getting to the end, but we have to do the whole thing kind of responsibly. And so that's going to give you the most choices as you go along.
So obviously, post-career, something you'll be talking about. You mentioned taking advantage of things like the tax code, and I'm assuming that means being able to recognize where there are write-offs, where there are opportunities to kind of make, like for example, this fall I went and did I did some shows in Barcelona, Spain, and that entity that is my performance entity booked my first flight to Europe, and it booked my flight home, and it booked the hotels that I was staying at in Barcelona. And then I ended up going to Berlin before that and doing a hypnosis related workshop. So all of that came out of the business. Now, the fact that I took a relatively cheap flight in the middle of those two places from Berlin to Paris, went to Disney World or Disneyland for 2 days, and then from Paris to Barcelona, none of that got written off. But boy, oh boy, it was the expensive part of my Disney trip getting to Europe. And I got to write that off because that was in the proper column. Now, of course, none of the Disney stuff and the fun stuff in the middle, not that the bread on the sandwich was not fun. Of course it was. But finding those opportunities to say, hey, I can turn this tax break, this write-off, this work, if you will, because I mean, if you love doing this stuff, it's really not work, into spin it into a vacation as well, and do these things on the side. Or maybe it's not even that extra journey for some people, but taking 2 extra days somewhere because you want to explore it. Like if you're going to PHS, for example, you should be doing that stuff under your entertainment business account. And if you spend 2 extra days there, great, do it. Now you got that vacation kind of for free.
And you can take that even a little bit further, right? So the most missed write-off in business is entertainment.
Yeah.
We've got a saying in my office. First off, I'm not a tax advisor. I'm a CFP. I am well versed in taxes, but even I have a CPA, right? I go to an accountant to take care of the tax law because it's constantly changing. So always check with your tax advisor for your situation. But within that, we know that there are base rules, and just like you said, you were able to take advantage of the laws that are in place to encourage business. I mean, let's face it. Politicians are there to protect the poor and benefit the rich sometimes, but they always want to encourage business because that helps everybody. And so that's why those laws are written. And so if you're not taking advantage of those, again, tax evasion is absolutely illegal, but tax avoidance is encouraged. We want to make sure that we're grasping as much as we can. And so I would say if you looked at it carefully, there was probably even a lot of entertainment opportunities you're allowed to write off half of that aren't being claimed. The other thing that is really going on in America right now, they did a great job over the last few years of making it so, over 90% of Americans qualify for the standard deduction. So you don't see people writing off a lot of things that they would have before. Volunteer hours, charitable deductions, things like that have to be pretty high before they move the needle. But when it comes to business, that's an above the line deduction, right? That's on your Schedule C ahead of time. And so that's deducted from the income before you ever get paid,
Right.
which means, you've got a lot more opportunity where that deduction, that you get as an individual hasn't applied yet. So take advantage of it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, why wouldn't you? And use it for what it's designed for. Make it so that you're more successful. I mean, you've traveled all over the world. Love that chapel or the cathedral in Barcelona. Kind
Yeah.
of some interesting stuff going on there. But while enriching your life, you get to add to your performance, right? Not just for the performance you're having there, but the life experience that you're gaining in the education that you can then apply to future ventures and future performances. So it's not just some wacky thing to be able to deduct income. Use it, make yourself better, and use that to earn more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You, well, you know what? We've got a question here, and this is super important because the Performing Hypnosis Summit brings folks in from all over the world. We've got a question here. Do you have the ability to advise folks in Canada, UK, or Europe, or point them in the right direction? We're going to ignore the missing Oxford comma there. I think we all know what Brian means when he asks this question.
I'm a big fan of the Oxford comma there. You got to be careful. You turn into William Shatner with too many of them, but not enough, and you end up in contractual problems. Anyway, so yes, some of the things we're going to be going over are going to be less applicable, absolutely, to foreign entities. But I have clients from the Philippines. I have clients in the UK. And it really comes down to looking for what's going to benefit them, what they're going to take out of there. A lot of times it'll be more like the trust structuring things that we'll talk about. Again, if you're performing in the US, then you should have some sort of a foreign credit shelter trust. Lots of times if you're someone that's really jumped in and earning income, because a lot of times you're holding assets here, and if that's the case, remember estate tax kicks in at what, $60,000, $90,000, something like that, for a foreign resident performing in the United States or that has assets here. Protect yourself from that. But a lot of the general stuff that we'll be talking about really applies. Things like estate planning topics and, general investments and sectors and things like that. A lot of people, if you talk to them, especially in the United States, go, oh, well, I've got a diversified portfolio. I've got more than 5 mutual funds. Well, great. You've got all mutual funds. Congratulations. You're totally tied to the market. But they've not gotten any other perspective. So it's important to make sure that we're kind of lending that along. And then I'm big on question and answer. I'm super responsive to the audience. And so I want to make sure that we're answering specific questions, because you can only give out so much general information.
Yeah.
You're an attorney, you understand every patient is different for the doctor. I love it when people, stop me and they find out what I do and they're like, hey, oh God, what should I invest in? I don't know. That's like calling up a mechanic on the telephone and saying, hey, what's wrong with my car? He's never seen your car. He has no idea. But structure wise, those things, the fundamentals, it's no different than any sport. The fundamentals are the same, and they're going to translate, and so everybody should be able to apply some good lessons that are going to come along.
Awesome. This is super important stuff, super valuable stuff. If you don't think it's important to you, I guarantee you're wrong. I'm just going to go and be that bold and say it. So make sure you're there. Performing Hypnosis Summit. It's next week, folks. It's next week. Any last thoughts before we send everybody on their way and get ready to? I mean, people should be packing their bags right now and at least thinking about what's going in those bags. Even the last minute people, we're here at TikTok land, you know?
You're absolutely right. I'm really looking forward to it. I know it's going to be a great time. I'm looking forward to interacting. I've done some help some local seminars and done some speaking up here, but just remember, for almost everyone, your biggest bill during your lifetime is taxation, and a lot of that is on your earnings. So figure out how you're going to structure yourself, how you're going to behave, and set this stuff up so that it's not what you earn, it's what you keep.
Yeah.
Let's figure out how to get you into that realm where you're keeping as much as you can and then enjoying the benefits of it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for your time, everybody. PerformingHypnosisSummit.com. You can still register. Also, the hotel block is definitely done. You can definitely try to call the Gold Coast, say you're with PHS. They might give you a room, but you didn't hear it from me. So there's no guarantees on that happening there. It's Vegas, baby. Have a wonderful time. And until next time, which will probably be for PHS pre-talks next year, we'll see you. Be well, be safe out there, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to the Between Two Minds Behind the Scenes podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media under Between Two Minds with the number 2 instead of TWO, or under Enter the Impossible. Thank you, and we hope to see you back for the next episode.